The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotgun. They stand behind you. Is fueled by Fiocchi.
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast. Coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays.
Ben Hustway.
Each short blind person would have to fight 14 kangaroos.
Let's get Anthony on the phone.
You're making a big mistake, okay?
Yeah.
We're talking Gianna Santo tonight.
Well, I have something, but I don't know how much everyone's going to like it.
I was not ready for that.
With your hosts, Jason Rambo.
You just didn't want my wife to edit something else you did.
And Sean Alley.
Gotta keep it PG-13, man.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast. The Dead Pair. And now, it's showtime.
We're back, large and in charge. What's up, my friend?
Yes, we are, Jason. Definitely in full swing here. Summertime is here. The heat is on.
The heat is on. That's right. Speaking of the heat is on, we have got a star-studded lineup for everybody with these interviews from the World Sporting. I know that I probably should have put these out last week, but the interview with Brandon, I thought it was more important because he's the world champion currently.
Definitely.
And he deserved that spotlight. But we did get some very, very important people, some very good shooters, and it was difficult. I want to give a real quick shout out to Ben McAnally from Texas, former president of the Texas Sporting Clays Association.
Right.
He was a very big help in helping me get some of these people, very instrumental. So thank you to Ben for that. He had to be my wingman since you weren't there, Sean Alley.
Yeah, Ben's a good wingman, man. I'm telling you what, he's a good dude to hang out with.
Very good individual. But stay tuned. We got interviews coming to you from George Digweed, Richard Faulds, none other than Mr. Anthony Matarese himself, Reanna Frauens, Grace Corseli, and Amber Brown. All of these are fantastic competitors. Of course, Anthony was not only the competitor, but he was, in fact, the man in charge for this event. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with some interviews.
The Dead Pair.
All right, with possibly, I know the busiest man on the property right now, Anthony. This has been amazing. I made the comment a couple years ago when I came down here for your target setting class, and then came back last year for the Northeast Regional, how much preparations went into this. Now here we are, you're 1,100 shooters more than you had at the Northeast Regional, and things are just moving like clockwork. Real quick, talk about some of the preparation that you and your family have done to get ready for this event.
So when it started, when we were first awarded the shoot, we pretty much started, that day in some capacity, making provisions and getting things ready. We renovated the front of the clubhouse. We started making provisions to build an extra course to be able to accommodate all the people and all the different events. So that started, almost 2 years ago. And since then it's been, just a lot of logistics, right? So we try to be super detail oriented, lay everything out. I've got a folder on my laptop that probably has 30 different documents in it, from Word documents to Excel documents, just keeping everything organized, spreadsheets of who's working where, what we're doing, lining up the appropriate people to work with us. That's a big part of it, is having good people. One of the things that, if you have good people in all different capacities, all the way from, the traps and stuff that you have out on the ground to the people working the games, the practice, the parking, so that started, almost 2 years ago. And then over the last 2 years, it's basically kind of a work in progress of kind of having checklist of, just there's a lot of small details. It's not hard to do a pretty good job, but it's really hard to do an excellent job and hit all variables, So in terms of, and every shooter is here to enjoy themselves, and some people, one thing is more important to them than another, right? So you want all of the variables to get covered.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's so many of the participants here are not trying to be a world champion. It's the experience of being here at a world championship event. I'll be honest, this is my first one. And I had hair standing up on my arms last night for opening ceremonies, seeing the countries come in carrying their flag. I thought that was awesome. And so it is the experience, and I've noticed that you guys have gone above and beyond on everything. We haven't seen anything on our end, and I say we, I mean the shooters. Everybody's talked about how great the event's been, how smooth it's ran. Have you guys ran into any hiccups behind the scenes that
Nothing major, to be honest with you. Everything has kind of went as planned, but we had lots of meetings. We'd have a staff meeting every week for the last couple months, and update documents and cross things off the list. Very little on our end, has not went as we planned it to go. You have an occasional something happen, and tower wouldn't go up, and we had to get somebody out there and fix it before the rotation started, but we got pulled it off. So nothing really that is if there was a variable that we would have been the most concerned about was parking, but we had 5 or 6 parking guys, and 2 of them are police officers that know how to direct people, and they're strict with what they're doing, but they have to be, right? So we've kind of gotten through that, and really no issues, small traffic jam here or there, but that's what's going to happen when you have 1,800 or 2,000 people plus all their cars and buggies going around. But they've done a pretty good job handling it. So everything's went as we planned.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I noticed yesterday is we shot the DT11 course. As I was coming off the course, your staff, man, it looked like a NASCAR pit crew. I mean, they literally were sprinting to the machines, get them full for the next rotation, and just everything went like clockwork. So I got a personal question for you. You being a national champion and a world champion, is part of you like, man, I wish I was shooting this? But then again, I know how important it is for you and your family to have a world-class event. But is there a little bit of animosity there about not shooting?
I miss a chance to win the world championship on any given year. It only comes around once a year, right? So a chance missing it, that kind of sucks a little bit. But would I want to shoot it at all here? No. I want to host it and do a good job. And, given that we put in for it and awarded it, I'm happy to be hosting it instead of shooting.
Well, one last question for you, and this is just a fun one. I know you're a competitor, and everybody that's here you've competed against one time or another, and I'm sure you've probably looked at scores a little bit. Any early predictions?
I didn't. I haven't looked at them today. I looked at them yesterday, and there was a handful of good scores come off the 692. The SL2 course. The 694 is the tough one. Brandon had a good score there, but I was just watching him today on the DT11. He's not shooting well. Missed 5 or 6 very basic birds, so that's going to set him back a little bit. I think it's anyone's game, really. I feel like, you had to have a decent score on the 694. That's the one Joe Skull set. It's probably the hardest. It's the most straightforward, I would say. It's just got some big distance to it. The SL2 and the DT11 are much shorter distances. I'd say majority of the birds on those are all inside 35 yards. But they're not easy. They're pretty technical. So I think it's anyone's game.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we shot DT11 yesterday. I think the farthest target at any one point was about 50 yards.
Yeah, you had that hole from stand 1 to stand 6. There's nothing really over. Everything's inside 40.
Yeah.
And then stand 7 through 10, that back stretch, you had that big midi and a couple big crossers on 10. Those are 50, 55. And then once you got to 11, 12, 13, everything was back 35 yards and in, 40 yards at the most. So, yeah, that's not extreme. To me, that course is the trickiest. I feel like it looks – I don't feel like it looks hard. I don't think, if you're a C-class shooter, I don't think the DT11 looks that hard.
Right.
The 694 looks hard, right? And it is, right?
That was the common consensus going around the course yesterday is talking to everybody. Like, man, these just don't look hard, but I'm not hitting them. It's like, he got you then, and I talked to Joe.
Seeing something that's happening, right?
Right. Yeah, you're misreading the target. And I was talking to Joe back there on the Tower Challenge, Joe Skull. He was driving by. And I said, man, these targets are just phenomenal. I mean, they're awesome targets. It's what you expect at a world championship. And like you said, if you're not reading them right, we got you.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough difficulty. Then you couple in, it's a world championship. Then you couple in misjudging some stuff that's well set. And, the scores are going to be down a little bit, So hopefully we didn't beat everybody up too much. Some of the side events were not as bad. All the sub-gauge stuff, sub-gauge feed tests, the super sport's not too bad. But it is a world championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Anthony, I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you spending 5 minutes with us. Maybe we'll catch up after this and do a little recap or something. That'd be great.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thanks. Miss Reanna Frauens, how are you, ma'am?
I am great. How are you?
Well, what I want to know is we were just sitting here talking about this World Championship. Tell us how much preparation you put into this shoot.
I'll have to say I'm probably not your best representation of, most shooters here, but I have hardly put in any preparation. I just graduated from undergrad at the University of Florida last week, so finals and everything like that have really kind of taken over any free time that I have to practice. I will say I did get out maybe 2 or 3 times in the last week, but that's pretty much been the extent of my preparation for Worlds. I just came here to have a good time and see everybody and kind of celebrate the ending of an era. So,
well, there you go. Well, let's briefly go backwards before we go forward. We're going to sit down and do a whole episode with you. We discussed that. But for those that don't know, where are you from? How long have you been shooting?
I am from Coral Springs, Florida, and I have been shooting for about 7 years.
Okay, and you do have a long list of accomplishments, which, again, we'll get into that in a full episode. Tell everyone, first of all, is this your first World, or have you been to other World shoots?
This is my third World Championship. I shot my first one at Northbrook a few years back, and then the second one in San Antonio, and then this is my third. Yeah.
Okay, so how does this compare to the other World shoots you've been to? What's your kind of give me a comparison between here at M&M versus San Antonio versus Northbrook?
So I vividly remember Northbrook. I remember the targets being fairly difficult, but granted, that was my very first World Championship. I can't remember San Antonio as much simply because we shoot nationals there every year, so trying to decipher the different layouts between those competitions, I can't really recall. I will say that I have shot the DT11 and the SL2 at this World Championship. I have yet to shoot the Wicked 694 yet, but from what I have shot so far, I believe that all the targets are very fair. You don't walk up to a station and feel completely defeated. Everything is extremely technical. You can easily drop 1 or 2 targets on every single station. And I have to say that I've really enjoyed the targets and the presentations. They're fun targets to shoot. There's a lot of variety, which is great. And yeah, but again, my opinion might change after tomorrow's rotation, considering everyone's been talking about how difficult it is. But from what I've seen so far, targets have been phenomenal, and the whole shoot in general has just been put together very, very well.
Yeah, I was talking to Iain earlier in an interview, and he was telling me, the kind of preparation they put into this and what it took, and I think they have done a phenomenal job. Really, just as soon as you come in the gate, if anybody wants to know how to run a shoot, just bring your notebook and start writing. This is phenomenal. It's a world championship. It's a pinnacle of our sport. And I agree with you. I think the targets are right on point. I think they're right where they should be. He's not beating you with, speed and distance. It's not an eye test. He's just him and Joe, I think, give me your opinion of this, I think they just did a really good job of seeing how well you can control the gun and read the target.
100%. I walked up to a station today. It had a little MIDI crosser that was maybe, I don't even know, 20 yards away, not even, and another falling target. And I went up to my mom and I'm like, this looks really easy, right? She's like, oh yeah, it looks really easy. You should run it. And I said, this is probably one of the hardest stations out on the course. And everybody was missing that MIDI. And what's great is that a lot of the people that aren't, professional shooters and just kind of come up here to have fun, don't compete as much. They see that and they think, oh, this is simple. I can hit that. I have a chance at hitting that. And they don't understand the technicality behind it. But we do, the people that shoot a lot, we understand it and we realize that, hey, you can easily drop a bird here. I have to really control my gun. It's all about hold points and gun movement and everything like that. But it gives those people that aren't avid shooters a chance to walk up and say, oh, this looks simple. Oh, I can hit that. It's not super far away. I'm not so defeated by the time I just walk in there before I even pull the trigger.
So, quick story for everybody. You shot the SL2 and the DT11, right? So, okay, think on SL2 Station 7, where you're up on that little platform. You had a little left to right white bird. It couldn't have been, am I lying, 5 yards?
Yeah.
and then you had an outgoing right to left quartering rabbit. Again, this goes back to just what you were saying. This looks simple. This looks easy, and I can do this. And I saw so many people shoot over the Rabu. I saw so many people miss that little 5-yard left-right crosser. It wasn't going fast. But that station right there, that example, falls right in line with what you're talking about. They misread the targets.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I say the closer the targets, the harder they can be. There's like a little range where it's just too close and your gun movement has to be spot on, your hold points have to be spot on, and your eyes really have to be working because you only have a very small window of opportunity to hit that target. And again, the whole gun movement thing, am I too far in front, but it's so close, and that whole question kind of comes into play. And so, yeah, for sure.
Well, what everybody can't see, this is so cool. I just realized you have red, white, and blue fingernails going on. This is hilarious. She's got this red, white, and blue with stars and sparkles. And look at this. Jamie, this girl's all into the world shoot here. So,
listen, if I can't shoot good, I can at least try to look good,
Well, Reanna, thank you for spending a few minutes with us. Again, we're going to, just a little teaser to everybody, we're going to have a full episode with Reanna coming up soon. But hey, good luck the rest of the weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you some more.
The Dead Pair.
All right, very honored, very privileged to be sitting here with Mr. Iain Parker, president of CPSA. Is that correct?
No, not the president, thankfully. The CEO.
CEO. Okay.
CEO. Yeah.
And is this your first time? Is this your first trip to M&M?
It is. Yeah. First time here.
First impression.
A beautiful ground. I mean, fantastic. I've been to a few different shooting grounds around the US. They're all different, obviously, depending which state and area they're in. But no, I mean, beautiful topography, great, the woodlands, and a real variance of course between open areas, deep, thick woodland. And I think course setter's dream. And, Anthony and the family have done a phenomenal job setting it up.
Yeah, I've no doubt. So here's one I wanted to ask you is you've been obviously to a lot of world championship events. Looking at the targets, that kind of thing, can you give me some kind of comparison to other events?
Sure, yeah. I think, and obviously looking at the targets, I'm no target expert like Anthony and some of the others, course setters by any means, but talking to the shooters, whether they're a C-class shooter or a treble A shot, talking to our England team shooters who shot the first rotation yesterday, it's definitely a challenging set of courses. And I think Anthony's done that. It's a World Championships. Yeah. So it's not your average registered shoot. That's what we always do at a championship. It's got to be a notch or two higher. Yes. And I think, from what I've heard, what I've seen, Anthony's definitely delivered that on every layout. Each one's different, different complexities, different challenges on each, but great course. But
that's what you come to expect. I mean, if you come to an event like this is the World Championship event, and so you come to expect harder targets, or maybe something that's going to throw you off. It may be within your wheelhouse, but you expect a target setter to throw you off your game.
Absolutely, and I think the important bit there is that it's a World Championships, and whether it's here or whether it's in England, whether it's one of our national championships, it always surprises me a little bit when shooters turn up and probably expect to shoot their normal average. There's lots of things. It's a championship. Right. There's nerves. It's going to be a grade or two harder than your average shoot at your ground. This may be at a ground you've never been to. So all those things are going to throw you off. So if your expectation is you normally shoot an 80 out of 100 and you're going to shoot an 80 again, you're probably not going to meet your expectation.
Right, exactly. Well, ever since I pulled in the driveway Tuesday, my expectations and what my results have been two different things. So Anthony had the idea this year of dropping the word English from the World Sporting Championship. I'm sure I want you to tell me your initial reaction compared to what it's became.
Yeah, I think my initial reaction when I got in touch with Anthony on it was just, you've missed the word English out. Yeah. Then I think, having a conversation with it made sense to me that over here and even over in the UK, people refer to the discipline as sporting clays. Mm-hmm. Even if you look at, the title, of either the event or of the NSCA, it's sporting clays. So yeah, then it made sense to me. And whereas obviously in England, from our discipline's point of view, we always call it the English sporting. But a lot of our shooters will say, I shoot sporting. A lot of them won't say, I shoot English sport.
Yeah.
They won't give it its full title. But I think from our perspective, maybe from a legal point of view of what we own, what we have trademarked, it is English sporting.
Yeah. And I just, there's really no way of telling for sure, but I just wonder if it did generate more participants because they know what it is over here anyway, not in England. But I just wonder if it did bring in more participants because the word English was dropped. Like Anthony said, that was the confusion. He had students that didn't know.
Yeah, and I understand that. And when I had that conversation, I think that became clear. I understood that sort of thought process to it from a commercial point of view, 100%. Because probably my comparison to it was if we were running a trap competition, if you were running one over here and you called it sort of ABT, or 5-stand, rather than sport trap. It's the same discipline. You call it 5-stand, we call it sport trap. If I ran a competition, my national championship, and called it 5-stand, I wouldn't get 500 people booked in. And our championship this year sold out in 12 minutes for 500 people.
Wow.
So if I called it 5-stand, it might not sell out that quick.
Talk about next year's championship. It's going to EJ Churchill. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
It is correct. Yeah, that's where it's going.
And do you guys have the date set yet for next year?
12th to the 19th of July next year. So we'll sort of be there. And it'll start on a Saturday and finish, on a Saturday as it did last time. And then we'll also actually be there. We've come to an agreement with Churchill's. We'll actually be there for the next 3 rotations. That's a long-term commitment between us, the CPSA, and also Churchill's from an investment point of view. It'll give us a long-term commitment with them, but it also means that they're going to invest in the ground. It means they're going to open up parts of the estate we haven't shot on before. And it's a world-class facility over there. So between the actual ground and the estate next door, I think it's a one-off location for us in the UK. We've got very few grounds in the UK that can now host the Worlds to the size that it's
just because it's gotten so big.
Yeah, and also we're getting more and more requests for it to get bigger. More side events, more competitions. What else can we shoot? Not just the main event, not just the sport trap or the super sporting. What else can we shoot? So we've got to think about that as well.
Well, that was something, I was going to ask you too, is I've been told by so many, when you go to Europe, anywhere in Europe to shoot, they just shoot the main event and that's it. And they don't have sub gauge and side feed task and prelims and all the stuff that we do here. So is that something that you guys are starting to be more perceived to because there's so many Americans that go over that like to shoot all day long?
It's something definitely we're looking at, and the sub gauge is a conversation we've had before. We had it last time. It's and I think we just look at it from a commercial point of view. We don't want to be able to put on an event that 20, 30 people go and shoot. Sub-gauge competitions are not shot. They're not popular over in Europe, definitely in England. But it's something we always look at. And whether we bring in, a 50-bird competition out there and try it for sure, I'm open to it, absolutely to try it. And I've already got some sponsors that are open and willing to help with that maybe specialize a bit more in the sub-gauge side of things. So, yeah, we'll definitely look at it, but 100% we'll look at putting more targets on for more things to shoot that are side events. Here, Anthony's put on a phenomenal tower challenge, which, I know a lot of the, visiting shooters have talked about and gone over and shot. So I think things like that, most definitely, we need to look at that and put in things like that.
Well, that's what's impressive here is it's not just all the side events; it's all the side games that Anthony has here. If you're looking for something to shoot and you can't find anything, you're blinded here. There's plenty to shoot here all day long. One of the things I was going to ask you too, real quick, is about signing up for the World. You guys going to hold on to the World English name? I'm assuming for EJ. Where do they go to sign up?
So for those dates, it'll go live on our website on the 2nd of December this year. With our sort of partnership with the NSCA, we've agreed that we'll have an allocated number of slots that we'll give over to reserve and give over to the NSCA to manage. So you could book in either way, but you'd be able to book in through them. So it basically means that because it'll go on at 8 o'clock at night English time, and it'll probably sell out very quickly. I imagine what we don't want is what happened last year. Overseas, especially Americans, were trying to book on and it was sold out. So what we've, in conjunction and partnership with the NSCA, we'll reserve X amount for them. Could be 100 spots, and then you'll be able to book through them, as well as directly if you want to be up at 1 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. I think you guys are like 6 hours ahead of East Coast time.
It depends on, east to west.
Okay. Well, till now and then, any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, obviously, we're sort of almost getting halfway through the final days as such, here at M&M. And, we look forward to it raining today. The teams are out there again. I think, a tough day to shoot in, but, looking forward to a great day tomorrow. And, all the hard work that Anthony and the family have put in is already paid off. So just looking forward to the final days.
Awesome. Well, Iain, thank you so much. Appreciate you spending a few minutes with us, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I just asked her if she was ready to go, and she told me she was born ready. Hello, Miss Grace Corseli. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
How am I doing them or how am I shooting? Because those are two different questions. So, real quick, briefly, tell everybody where you're from and how long you've been shooting.
I am from Southern California, and I've been shooting since I was a sophomore in high school. So I've been shooting for about 4 years now.
And now you shoot for Lindenwood University.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Don't call me sir. What do you think? Is this your first world championship?
Yes, sir, it is.
What do you think? Let's just talk about the whole experience of being here, because look, people like me, I'm not here to do anything, okay? I'm in Masters. I'm not going to win anything, but it's the experience of being here. Talk about that for a minute. When did you get here? What's the experience been like since you came through the gate?
Yes, so me and my family, we flew in on Thursday, and I shot the SLT2 course on Friday, and I thought the course was amazing. It was super fun. I had the pleasure of shooting with Desiree Edmonds, and she is so awesome, super supportive, a great teammate. Today I shot the 694 course, which was a lot more challenging than the course I shot yesterday, but it was super fun to experience and see targets that I'd never seen before at my home course, or, it's these experiences when you're traveling around the world, seeing new targets.
So what is your home course?
My home course is the Mike Rahaga course.
Oh, okay. Rahagis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I've shot that with Chad, and I can tell you that the landscape is vastly different than it is here. So that probably took a little bit of adjusting, right?
Yes, it took a little bit of an adjustment, but when I came from when I went from home down in Southern California to Lindenwood, I got a lot more experience shooting in the trees and the woods, so it's nothing new to me now. Gotcha.
So talk about how has the flow been? We haven't, at least when I say we, I'm talking about my squad. Everything that we've shot so far, the prelim, the 12 gauge event, both the legs of the main that we've shot so far, even the feed task, we've had zero backups. How's it been for you?
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything I was telling Desiree yesterday, that I can't believe the fun's almost over. We're on their last station, and I feel like it's been 30 minutes. It's the fastest. They've been able to make things go by pretty fast. None of the machines have been broken. All the targets, all the trappers have been great, and the flow has been awesome.
Do you think, in your opinion, the targets are where they should be for a world championship, or were you expecting harder? Were you expecting easier? Give me your thoughts on it.
If you asked me yesterday, when I shot the SLT2 course, I definitely would have been I expected them a bit harder. It was still a very enjoyable course, but after today, I think they were about to par what I expected.
Yeah, I've heard that's the one course I haven't shot yet. It's a 694, and I've heard get ready to stretch a little bit, right? But it's funny because the common theme on the two woods courses, which is the DT11 and the SL2, it's the common theme is everybody's missing in front. And then I've been told by everybody that has shot the 694, don't be afraid to miss in front. So stretch them out a little bit more.
I would totally agree. There were definitely some targets that I was giving them a lot more than I thought. And I'm like, man, I am still behind. But there was nothing that you couldn't touch that was questionable. It was technical, and some of them were far, but none of them were questionable. Like, oh, the shell is not going to reach. But it was an awesome course.
So what is your concurrent right now? Is it just junior, lady, junior? What is your concurrent?
I'm still in junior and ladies because I'm not 21 yet.
Okay. So where do you think, or have you looked where you're at right now?
No, I have not. That's one of my things. I never look at the
one
scores.
of those people don't look at scores?
I'm one of those people that never looks at scores.
Well, I asked that because some people, they want to know. And the pressure doesn't bother them. They just want to know where they're at. And then other people like you and I, and I say that because I'm the same way, I don't want to know. Of course, where I'm at now, it doesn't matter. I can go out and shoot lights out my best ever, and I'm going to get killed by 15 targets. But so this is your first world championship. It's well worth it, wasn't it?
I agree. I think it was good. I've only been out to the range a couple times to practice. I've never been here in the tournament setting, and it's just a good experience to see new targets and meet people, and I love it. So
who's your coach?
My coach starting off was Jim Porter, taught me my fundamentals, and as I kind of started to progress, Ben Quartermarsh, and now I take lessons from Anthony Matarese.
Very nice. And I bet you were encouraged to go to an event like this, weren't you?
Yes, I sure was.
I mean, these big targets you learn. You learn from stuff like this. Are you going to the World FITASC?
No, sir, not that I know of.
No, not going over. Okay. Well, Grace, it's been awesome. I really appreciate it. This is what we try to do is let people know that, look, you don't have to be a world champion to go participate in one of these events, right, to enjoy it. Yes. So any closing thoughts?
What about you? What have you been thinking about the course so far?
Wow. The interview got turned around. Yeah. I thought it's on point. I really do. I think it's on point for a world championship course. And, I told both Anthony and Joe Skull that. I said I think that the targets are right on point because they're not beating you with speed and distance. They're not beating you with an eye test. They're not beating you with short windows. They're beating you. They want to know how well you can move the gun, and they want to know, can you read the target correctly? And if you do both of those things correctly and you have good moves, you're probably going to hit the target. Boy, I've got a lot of work to do. Let's put it that way. So, no, but my whole perspective, my whole mindset coming into this event was not to try and do anything as far as a score is concerned or winning anything. It's all about the experience for me, and that's what we preach so much on the podcast. You'll get there someday, you'll get to the point where you're winning and you can come to an event like this and try to accomplish something. But for me personally, look, the best and the best are here. This is the pinnacle of our sport, right? So for me, it's about the experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you're a good shotgun pointer, if you know how to point the gun, you're going to be able to hit all the targets on the course, which is what I really appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I mean, my hair stood up on my arms during opening ceremonies last night, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. George Digweed's here, and Brandon Powell's here, and everybody's here, and doesn't matter what corner of the globe. This is where we decide a champion.
No, I think it's super cool, and I never get to see all the big dogs, back at school. So it's cool to see them in person and shoot, and all the people that you hear about. That's probably been another one of my favorite. It's almost like when you go to Hollywood and you see your favorite celebrity. It's, oh my God, there's Brandon Powell, there's George Digweed. All the people that you hear about, which is one of my favorites.
Absolutely, and we do our best to try and talk to those people, but they're here for a more specific reason than we are, right? So. But, Grace, thank you again. Good luck to you. Give them hell.
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate for having me.
Hey, guys. Jason and I really love bringing this podcast to you week after week, but it does take a lot of time and a lot of resources to make it happen. And without these very special people, we couldn't do it on a week-by-week basis. Hey, Toby Tomplay, help these guys remember who they need to support.
Yes, sir. They can support Fiocchi USA, Elite Shotguns, Vero Beach Clay Shooting Sports, Score Chaser, Dawn Grant, Odo Pro Technologies, Rhino Chokes, RE Ranger, Taconic Distillery, and Atlas Trap Company.
All right, well, talking about standing in the presence of stardom, I have with me Mr. George Digweed and Mr. Richard Faulds, alongside here Mr. Ben McAnally. Richard, let's start with you. You have been, between you and George, you've been to, I don't even want to count how many world championships. Give us your initial thoughts on M&M coming here to the United States. What's your thoughts on this event?
Anthony and his team this week have run a phenomenal event. They've put, I don't know how many shooters through, 16, 17, 1800 through. It's been a faultless event. The targets for us coming from overseas have been somewhat challenging. And, George and I have been all over the world for the last 30 odd years more. And we've seen pretty much everything there is to be seen. And there was still stuff here that beat both of us and left us head scratching.
George, tell me about what was your favorite event here this week?
The plane ride home tomorrow.
Very good.
No, look, it's been a fantastic event. I've thoroughly enjoyed the event, even though I've shot well in parts and shot very poorly in parts. I'm not judging the event on how I shot at all, because you can't be that subjective. The scale of the event that he's put on, I mean, I think Anthony said to me at one stage he had 380 live traps.
Mm-hmm.
The scale of that, just to actually think about referees and refilling those traps in a manner that you'd keep everything running, is just mind-blowing. For me, I think the event's been faultless. I do think if we're looking at standards, we need to address two things. I think there should be standard colours for international and world events between the NSCA and the CPSA. We never shoot orange dome black rim targets at home, and they definitely shoot differently. There's no question of that.
Agree with
so that would be a big advantage. The other thing is that I know that we're trying to accommodate as many people as we can into the sport, and as a world championship, we're trying to get as many entries as we can. But it's not fair, in my view, this week that they would have a 2-day rotation and a 3-day rotation. To win on a 3-day rotation, and Richard I'm sure he'll be the first behind me in saying this, to win on a 3-day rotation when you've got to have 2 sleeps as opposed to 1 sleep is vastly different. As it turned out, the weather conditions weren't particularly favourable on the first 2 days, and nobody from the first rotation made the final. However, if you had had perfect weather conditions and you'd gone out on your second day shooting 2 rounds in one day, shot nuts off on one of the courses, and you've only got an hour to wait until you shoot again, you're absolutely going on fire into your second round. Mm-hmm. That's not fair, because the person that you're shooting against the person you're shooting against at the weekend has got to sleep for 12 hours on that, and the nerves and everything else that play a part in that to win a world championship is an absolutely,
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
We've just got to be fair about it. We can have as much money in the sport and everything as we want. If you're going to have a second rotation, it had to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, yeah, very well said. Richard, question for you. You and George were standing here exchanging some niceties with Joe Skull, one of our famous U.S. target setters. What were y'all talking about?
I've never heard of him. Who is he?
No, I just asked Joe if he was going to go and shoot the US Open, because I wanted to get my own back on him, because I'm setting the main event for that.
I'm so looking forward to that.
Unfortunately, he's not, because George said he was going to get hold of him later and sort him out.
I'm not sure we should use the word kill on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Like Jason said, standing in the presence of greatness. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, well done to the USA for putting on a faultless event. Richard runs his own shooting ground at home. He knows what goes into it. I don't run a shooting ground, but just looking at the sheer magnitude of this is beyond comprehension for me. So I've done a fantastic event, and we will come back, even though we've been beaten out of sight, we will come back and look forward to it.
Well, that's interesting you said about the target colors, because I've got some more questions on that. Guys, closing thoughts?
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Loved it.
See ya, everybody.
The Dead Pair. All right, I am here with the Lady of Michigan, Miss Amber Brown. How are you, Amber?
Good. How are you, Jason?
I'm finer frog hair split three-way. Amber, I've been asking everybody the same questions, and I know you'll elaborate freely. World Championship event. What's your opinion? What's your initial opinion, first of all?
So I went to the one in 2019 at Northbrook, and I will honestly say this is a lot more fair. And it's definitely as challenging, but it doesn't beat you up as bad. Definitely not shooting my best, but, kind of hanging in there. And I would say it's been honestly really enjoyable.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, you don't feel beat up.
No.
You feel more mad at yourself than anything,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, I talked to Aunt and Joe, and I've already made this comment like 10 times already, but I think the targets are on point for a world championship.
Oh, they're perfect. I mean, I shot SL2 today and had some gun issues, so I ended up switching guns and shooting my dad's, but really, they kind of got in your head with the targets. They would go from 40, 50 yard, in the air crossing to, literally 10 feet in front of you, and I would blow feet in front of them and think, why did I do that? And I'm like, well, it's because I just came from one that needed, 10 foot of lead. So it kind of worked the way that they wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely testing your gun movement and how well you're reading it. And you get somebody like me that can't move the gun all that consistent. It's looks like Ray Charles out there, but
I feel that.
it can get frustrating. I mean, you really get angry at yourself. It's like, why did I do that? But is that the common feeling that you have?
Yeah. To be 100% transparent, I had a breakdown on the SL2 for 3 stations, and I was super upset at myself because I had been shooting well, and then I just came across the close targets and couldn't force myself to shoot where I needed to, so that's when I switched guns, and then I was fine. But yeah, you come here and you know what to expect, it's gonna be tough, but you honestly end up beating yourself up more than it's worth,
Yeah, I was, to tell you how bad the wheels came off for me, I was on a 60 on the SL2.
Oh.
I started on station 7 and was on a 60, came around to 1, ran 1. That was the two pair of the big teals, or Shondells.
Yeah.
And was feeling really good, went to station 2, dropped 2, went to station 3, and dropped 5. So the wheels came off very, very quickly. So, and but you know what though, that's the way it should be. Sure. It's not going to be nobody's fault but your own. So you've been to other world championships. Talk about how the event's going, not just the targets, but let's talk about everything from rotations to food and vendors and everything. Talk about that.
I would honestly say everything has been. I mean, Anthony does a phenomenal job no matter what shoot. I've been to the Big Seafood. I've been to the World English in 2019 at Northbrook. And I've been to other shoots that Anthony's thrown as well. And he always just goes above and beyond. For example, a couple weeks ago when we were at the Southeast Regional, I felt like that was a little bit longer of a wait than, honestly, here at the Worlds. And there's 3 times as many people. And I just felt like the course itself was run impeccably well. We haven't had one machine breakdown. We did have a guy that had a seizure
on the
course in front of us on our very last station. He either had a seizure or passed out. A bunch of paramedics and Anthony came. And, the targets have been great. The food is good. I don't eat a lot of food at the club. But the food options have been good. There's been plenty of vendors. The dinner is supposed to be fantastic tonight. I know how Anthony does things. I'm sure it'll be over the top. There's supposed to be a big make-or-break shoot-off tonight, so that's exciting. And man, what else has there been? Every single course from, you know, the VTAS to the 5-stand to the main, they've all been almost, in my opinion, about the same quality of target. And there's really nothing that's over the top, but it just makes you scratch your head and think, why did I not hit that?
Yeah.
So as a world event itself, I've been like really happy that we came.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is we're talking about all these events as a singularity, and the thing is it's not just the main that's going on. The VTASC, the prelim, all the sub-gauge events are going on. Plus he's got, you know, the Tower Challenge. He's got games with the pull shoot going on. He's got games with the which the pull shoot's really cool. And if you saw that or not, it's basically a 5-stand where they pick one true pair, and you walk through it, and the high score of the day. Oh, really?
I got to watch George Digweed shoot it. The high was like, this was like Friday, right? This was yesterday. Thursday. Thursday, we were going out to shoot VTAS. We wanted to shoot a little bit of practice, and George was there, so there was a bunch of people, and I was like, Dad, let's watch George. And I didn't know what he was doing, and it was the pole thing you're talking about. Yeah, and so it was really cool. I got to watch him shoot, and we were all out there with our phones and stuff. And I mean, it's not every day you get to see like I don't know how many times, he's like 50-time champion. So that was pretty cool. I got to watch him shoot like a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and the way that works, just so everybody knows, the high score for the day takes the pot, and it's a daily pot. And I think the high score at one point was like a 9 or a 10, and I mean, it's over $1,000 to win. You know, that was just on a side event. Yeah.
Man, I didn't realize it was that much.
Well, it depends on how many people play it, you know, that day. And it's stuff like that. Of course, you got the make a break. There's 2 make a break competitions going on. There's a daily, then there's the big qualifier for tonight. And but all this stuff is going on at the same time. And there's almost 2,000 people here, or probably more if you take family into account. And there's no jam ups, there's no backups. You can get right down vendors row if you want to. Tons of vendors here. So it's been a phenomenal event. And the reason why I'm pushing all this, the reason why there may be somebody listening that says, well, who cares? I don't care about this. Tell me, you know, it's for the people that think, well, I'm not good enough to go to a world championship. It has nothing to do with that, right?
100%, I would say, even if you're an E-class to AA, you should be here. I went in 2019. I think I was in Master, but I was like very low end, or maybe I was in AA. And honestly, like, it killed me. Northbrook was really tough, but what I did take away from it was I have so much to learn and so much to gain from going. And I kind of took that experience back with me, and I kind of thought about it and thought, well, you know, if all these professionals struggled on some of this stuff, it's okay if I struggle. So it was a good takeaway of, like, don't be intimidated by the number of shooters, the quality of targets. Like, come out anyway and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this is going to find a weakness in your game that you can go home and train on. I mean, everybody talks about you learn more from these kind of targets, and you know, this whole event, though, has been a big education for me. Of course, the experience is just nothing like it. So, you know, Amber, you're the 3rd person now that I've interviewed. We've already got big plans for an episode coming up, and of course, you're one of them. Between now and then, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say?
You know, really just, I would say anybody that's listening that wants to go to like a big shoot, I would say just do it. Try to encourage your friends that maybe even if they're local shooters that have just started shooting in your state to go to a regional or US Open, and don't let them get discouraged, because I was there once. And you know, it's my 2nd year traveling the circuit, and I've gained a lot of experience, and you know, it makes you want to fight that much more for a bigger goal. So
awesome. Well said. Of course, don't forget about the Dead Pro Challenge. Take someone who shooted one new person a month. So Amber, thank you. Good luck to you the rest of the weekend, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Well, Jason, I don't know how the hell you had time to shoot with all those interviews.
You know, with my shooting, it was probably been better off to leave it in the car and just go do the interviews.
Just do interviews instead? Be more of a persona versus a shooter?
Yeah, well, you know, you heard it yourself from some of these people. I mean, the targets were absolutely amazing. I mean, they were where they should be for a world championship. But the interesting thing is, the DT11 course, the SL2 course, there was nothing outside of 50 yards. Plenty of time to see it, plenty of time to shoot it, and you could see it really well. No eye tests, no short window stuff. And they flat out tested how well you can move the gun and how well you can read a target.
Well, and that's the one thing I was impressed about. Usually you get one of these big events and there's always some grumbling about the target presentation. There's always some, well, it was too hard, it was too fast, it was too far. I didn't hear much of that.
I never heard all week that I was there, and plus the interviews, plus since we've been back home online, I have never heard one complaint about the targets. Even the 694 course, where that course was set up, it lended itself to bigger targets. And there was some far targets out there, but man, they were in the sky. You had a ton of time. You could see them really well. They were slow, but they were big.
Right.
And what does that mean? How well can you control the gun?
Right.
And they tested that. And, I told Joe Skull, and I talked to him probably half a dozen times when I was down there. I told him, I said, you guys did a very good job of finding the weakness of 2,000 competitors. And he said, he smiled, he looked at me, he said, that was our job.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a phenomenal job on it.
Yeah.
So
definitely sounded like everything went well. Everybody was enjoying the targets. It was definitely technical, definitely difficult enough. What about, did you ever get any direct reactions from people from outside the U.S. as far as what their interpretation was?
Yeah, they absolutely loved it. I mean, you heard George Digweed.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, because here in America, we kind of have a certain understanding about what targets are going to be like when we go around for a registered shoot. So I'm just curious, okay, so somebody coming from another country, what do they think about our targets here versus, targets over there?
Yeah, I did hear a little bit of that. It seemed like the common theme for people that aren't used to shooting the 108 targets versus the 110, they were in front of everything in the SL2 and DT11 course, and they were behind everything in the 694 course. So,
gotcha.
Look, not picking on him, George himself zeroed 2 stations, one on the SL2, one on the DT11. I mean, and those targets to us weren't that bad. And I mean, it tested everybody. It tested their abilities. So, one of the things I will say is I was really impressed how big the lower classes were. And, this goes right into what we tell everybody every week, Sean Alley.
Yep, take somebody new shooting, get them out there with a gun in their hand. And, that's the cool thing. I mean, just recently I posted a thing. There's a new fellow that I brought into the sport. And the instant that we went out there and he shot at Cardinal, we were out there for about 2.5 hours. He signed up, became a registered shooter with the NSCA, and just competed in his first contest or his first tournament at Cardinal. So you know what? I'm sure he's pretty much going to be hook, line, and sinker from here on out, like we were. So that's all it takes, guys. Just get someone out there, introduce the sport to them, and let the rest take care of itself.
That's right. And you murmured the word contest.
Yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and tease everybody. On the next episode, we are going to announce 2 new contests. One with Ranger Performance Eyewear. We have some of the new Bull and Buck frames to give away.
They are sweet.
They are some very nice glasses. And we also have an entry into nationals from the NSCA that's been donated to give away. So we're going to be announcing those giveaways and those contests in the very next episode. So stay tuned for that. Sean and I are kind of devising some fun stuff for the contest.
Heck yeah.
Don't forget, send us the questions for the coaches, and you can participate in these contests simply by going to the show description and click on Send Us a Text. That's available to you. Sean Alley, this is awesome. Dead Pair Challenge. We're still challenging everybody to take 1 new shooter a month. If you're not doing it, come on now. There's no reason why you shouldn't be.
That's right. That's how we grow the sport, guys and gals.
That's right. Share the love. But hey, Sean, this has been long. This has been fun, but we got to run.
That's right.
Until next week, my friend.
Can't wait to see you all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotguns and Vero Beach Clay Shooting Sports and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Big thanks to the following sponsors: RE Ranger, Odo Pro Technologies, Rhino Chokes, Dawn Grant, Score Chaser, Taconic Distillery, and Atlas Trap Company.